You know how some people judge others based on appearances? Well, this is the story of how one arrogant mechanic learned never to do that again, the hard way. It all started on a warm summer afternoon in a small town just outside Denver, Colorado. The kind of town where everyone knows everyone and gossip spreads faster than wildfire. Mike was a skilled but cocky mechanic who ran a local auto shop called Mike's Talk Zone. He had a good reputation when it came to fixing engines, but an even bigger reputation for making fun of people, especially women, who, in his words, had no business touching a wrench. Mike always believed that mechanics was a man's world, and he didn't hide that opinion. People would often hear him say things like, "A woman under the hood? That's like a fish climbing a tree." Yeah, real charming, right? One Friday afternoon, Mike's own Mustang GT broke down just outside of town. Ironically, he was on his way to a car show to show off his custom upgrades. Furious and embarrassed, Mike called his assistant to come tow the car back to the shop, but she was stuck in traffic. With no signal on his phone and the car smoking, he stood by the road, cursing under his breath. That's when she showed up. A dusty old blue pickup pulled over beside him. The door opened and out stepped a young woman, probably in her early 20s, wearing jeans, boots, and a grey hoodie. She had grease-stained hands and a toolbox in the back of her truck. Her name was Emma. "Need a hand?" she asked politely, glancing at the smoking Mustang. Mike looked her up and down, clearly unimpressed. "I think I'll wait for someone who knows what they're doing," he said with a smirk. Emma raised an eyebrow, but didn't respond to the insult. She just nodded and walked over to his car anyway. "Looks like a busted radiator hose and maybe a blown gasket," she said, kneeling beside the engine. Mike laughed. "You serious? You can't just guess by looking at it." Emma looked up at him calmly. "I'm not guessing." Mike rolled his eyes. "Look, sweetheart, why don't you go play with dolls or whatever it is you do? I've been under more hoods than you've had hot dinners." At that point, most people would have walked away, but not Emma. She stood up slowly, walked over to her truck, pulled out a clean rag, wiped her hands and said, "Tell you what, if I'm wrong, I'll leave and never bother you again. But if I'm right, you let me fix it." Mike scoffed. "Deal, but don't cry when you mess something up." Emma went to work. Within minutes she had the hood open, tools laid out, and was diagnosing the car like a seasoned pro. She wasn't just poking around. She knew exactly what she was doing. She moved fast, checking connections, running a quick pressure test, and inspecting the coolant flow. 10 minutes later she stood up. "Your lower radiator hose snapped off. That caused an overflow, then led to overheating. You also probably didn't notice your thermostat's stuck closed. It's been that way for a while." Mike blinked. "Wait, what?" Emma handed him the broken hose piece and pointed to the thermostat housing. "Want me to fix it, or should I wait for someone who knows what they're doing?" Mike was stunned. His pride wouldn't let him admit she was right, but the evidence was right in front of him. Still trying to act tough, he muttered, "Fine, you got lucky." Emma laughed softly. "Yeah, luck." She went back to her truck, pulled out some spare parts, and began working like a pro. Mike stood there in silence, watching her every move. Every time she tightened a bolt or adjusted a clamp, he felt a little more foolish. When she was done, she handed him a small bottle of coolant. "Fill it up, give it a few minutes to run, and you should be good to go. But you should really clean that fan too, it's clogged with bugs." Mike couldn't believe it. This random girl from nowhere just fixed his car, better and faster than half the guys in his shop could. Still trying to save face, he asked, "Where'd you learn to do all that?" Emma shrugged. "Here and there. My mom taught me most of it." Mike chuckled. "Your mom, what is she, a car collector?" Emma smiled, but there was something mysterious in her eyes. Something like that. Before Mike could ask more, she jumped into a truck and said, "Have a good day, boss man," and drove off. Mike stood there, completely speechless. He couldn't stop thinking about what just happened. Who was this girl? And more importantly, who was her mom? That night, he couldn't shake the feeling, so he decided to ask around. And that, my friend, is where the real story begins. Because what Mike was about to find out would change everything. Mike couldn't sleep that night. He kept replaying the moment over and over in his head. The moment Emma, a total stranger, walked up, diagnosed his car like a seasoned pro, and fixed it in less than 20 minutes. And then she said something that really stuck with him. "My mom taught me most of it." Those words echoed in his mind. So the next day, Mike did something he rarely did. He asked around nicely. He figured in a town this small, someone had to know who she was. He went to the diner where the town's old-timers hung out. The kind of place where coffee flowed like water and rumors never ran dry. "Hey," Mike said to the waitress, "you know a young woman named Emma? Drives an old blue pickup, real handy with cars." The waitress, a sharp older woman named Judy, smiled. "Emma Collins? Yeah, everyone knows Emma. Quiet girl. Works part-time at the hardware store. Helps out at the local shelter too." Mike nodded slowly. "Her mom a mechanic or something?" Judy raised an eyebrow. "You don't know who her mom is?" Mike shook his head. Judy leaned in like she was about to tell a ghost story. "Her mom is Catherine Collins." Mike froze. That name, it hit him like a truck. Catherine "Cat" Collins. The legend, the myth, the woman who, 15 years ago, became the first female NASCAR engineer to lead a championship-winning pit crew. Mike remembered her. Everyone in the automotive world did. Back in the early 2000s, Cat Collins shattered the glass ceiling of the racing world. People laughed at her, doubted her, mocked her, until her team started winning. Under her direction, their cars ran smoother, their pit stops were faster, and their engines lasted longer. She earned the nickname the Machine Whisperer. She eventually retired after a major crash left her with a limp, but her reputation never faded. She was a pioneer, a genius, a force. And now, Mike had just laughed at her daughter. His face turned red with embarrassment. He rushed out of the diner and drove straight to the hardware store. He needed to talk to Emma. He needed to apologize. When he arrived, she was restocking shelves, calm, focused, the same cool confidence she showed under the hood. "Emma," he said, approaching awkwardly. She turned and smiled politely. "Hey, Mike, car still running?" He scratched the back of his neck. "Yeah, running great. Listen, I owe you an apology." She shrugged. "It's okay, I'm used to it." "No," Mike said firmly. "It's not okay. I judged you, mocked you, treated you like you didn't know anything. And turns out, your mom is Cat Collins." Emma tilted her head slightly. "You figured that out?" "Everyone in the auto world knows who she is," Mike admitted. "I looked up to her growing up, still do." Emma nodded. "She doesn't talk about it much anymore. After the crash, she kind of stepped away from everything." "She's a legend," Mike said, "and clearly she passed down more than a few skills." Emma smiled. "She taught me everything, but she also taught me to stay humble. People will underestimate you. It's your job to prove them wrong without showing off." Mike laughed softly. "Sounds like something she'd say." There was an awkward silence for a moment. Then Mike said, "Would you ever consider working in a real garage? I mean, I could use someone like you. Maybe teach some of my guys a thing or two." Emma looked surprised. "You serious?" "I'm very serious," Mike said. "You know your stuff, and I want to make things right. Not just with you, but with the way I've treated a lot of people." Emma studied him for a moment. She wasn't the type to rush into anything. Then she said, "On one condition." Mike raised an eyebrow. "Name it." "You hire more women. Teach them. Give them a real shot, just like you're giving me." Mike smiled, this time without ego. "Deal." A few months later, Mike's torque zone looked very different. Emma was now the lead diagnostic tech, training new hires, both men and women, and making the garage run more efficiently than ever before. Word spread fast, and more young women started applying, encouraged by her presence and reputation. Mike, once the loud-mouthed skeptic, had become one of her biggest supporters. One day, Catherine Collins herself stopped by the shop. She walked with a cane, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. She watched her daughter fix a transmission, then looked at Mike. "You finally figured out she's the smart one, huh?" Mike laughed nervously. "Yes, ma'am." Catherine smirked. "Good, about time." Then she looked at Emma and said, "Proud of you, kid." Emma beamed. Sometimes it takes being humbled to realize greatness doesn't always come in the package you expect. Mike learned that lesson the hard way, but thanks to one brilliant woman and her legendary mother, his world changed for the better. And now, Mike doesn't laugh at women trying to fix cars anymore. He hires them.